NX or RX? That is the question. And it's a question I get asked all the time. So in today's video, I'm gonna go over every detail that we've ever filmed on the Lexus NX and all of its variants. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content. Okay, so as you can see, I have this red NX 350 F Sport Series 3. So let's just get right into it. So we're gonna start with the door handle because we'll kind of go left to right here. With this new smart handle design, we have a few things. So it's not really a button, but it is a button. We have to the left here, that little dimple that I call it. So that actually locks the car. So when the key is in our pocket, you can just touch it. It'll beep, you'll see a flash, and then it'll unlock. And then to unlock it, we just put our hand sort of in that little crevice there. Let's call it a crevice. And there's actually a little, there's like a little pad in there too. You can't really see it, but you can feel it. There's like a little pad, and that's how you just squeeze that and open the door. Now, there is another little feature. So even though it's not a button, it's a lever. We'll just show that that is the lever to open it if you had a dead battery. And that gets engaged by popping this little cover off with the key, or maybe don't use the key. I have a video on that. It is a lot easier to use something plastic, but that's how you open it up manually. We'll just open it up and we'll sort of start on this side door. So the first button we'll go over is the handle to get out. So what you do to get out is you just press with your thumb and indent it, and it'll activate the door handle. A lot of times people will go automatically and try to pull it out. You can pull it out. That's like the way to get out if you have a dead battery, but you don't need to. You can just press in with your thumb. So it does take a little bit of getting used to. That's why I always leave this sticker on there for people. Actually, I haven't taken a single one of those off. So that just stays on there all the time, and it's a lot easier to use. Beside that, we have our little control panel here, the little bezel. Each one of these is just a hard press down. So you can kind of see when you press it down for the window, there is a half click and then a full click. So the half click is what's gonna just roll down the window. The full click is that auto feature. So you're just gonna press that. And that's always been a great thing with luxury cars, is being able to just roll down the window just like that, instead of having to hold each one separately. And then the main driver one has a little dimple there as well. Then we have the feature where we lock out all the other people from rolling down their windows. So when the car is on, you just press that. When the light is on, that means the other windows are locked out. So that means your passengers cannot roll down their windows. Then we have unlock and lock. Now lock has the light because, you guessed it, it doesn't make any noise because of the electronic handle. So unlock, no light. Lock has the light. There is no click noise. And there's also no, as you can see here, little thing that goes up and down or a light or anything. So really the only way to tell is on there. Then we have the left and right control for the mirror. And this is how you control the mirror, is this little 4 pad here, this little circle. And when you hit L, it'll be lit up. When you hit R, it'll be lit up. And then we have auto and fold the mirrors. Now, because I have the door open right now and the car off, it won't do that. I always leave it in auto because then the mirrors will fold in when you press lock. And this will just fold them in normally as well. So that's for that little bit. Then we have our memory settings. So to set the memory settings, you just press set and then press the button. I think you can also just hit set and then within a second hit the button. But I usually, when I set them, I usually hold the set and then press the button. So press 1, 2, or 3, and then it'll change the seat, steering wheel, and the side view mirrors all programmed to this. So make sure when you're setting those, you have the seat, the steering wheel, and the side view mirrors all to where you want it to be before pressing those, okay? Let's move to the inside of the car. Okay, so the first buttons as we get into the inside is actually gonna be on the side of the seat because they're the first ones I can see. So on here, we have forward and backward for the bottom of the seat. So it's always really easy to remember with Lexus because this one is shaped and in the same angle as the bottom of the seat. And this button is sort of like the backrest, and that's actually what moves the backrest, as you can see it moving. And then from there, we also have lumbar, and this one just has the 2-way lumbar. So you can tell because it has the little angle, or the little, I'm not gonna call everything a dimple, but it's kind of like a dimple. And that's for the lumbar in and out for your lower back. So the base also goes up and down and forward and back. backrest is just forward and back, and then the lumbar is just forward and back. Again, keeping with our left to right sort of movements here. So now we have our little dial for our vents, and if you go all the way to the right, you can actually feel a little click, and then if you go all the way to the left, there's another little click. And one side is open, so this is fully open right now, and this is fully closed. And you can feel it click in, and then we just have our up and down there. To the right, we have our odometer and trip, as well as our dimmer switch. And that's really nice because on some cars, it's sort of hidden, like behind the steering wheel, where on this one, it's not. It's actually, you know, right in the open. When you press it, it'll switch between odometer as well as trip, and then up and down for dimmer. Then we have below that gas door. So when you press that, it opens up the gas door. It is on the left side of the vehicle. And then we have the hatch. You can press and hold this to open up your hatch. And this is a lever, I get it, but it's still important to show. So pull this to open up your hood, and I'm just gonna quickly show you where the lever is for your hood. You're gonna look at the front of your beautiful red Lexus. It's sort of lined up with the emblem. So if you see, you can see it's I'm kind of reaching in right above the lever, or sorry, right above the emblem. And all you do is just run your finger, like if you go like this, just run your finger in, you'll feel it, and then you can lift up as well. And just to give you an idea, that's what that lever looks like. So to show you, it's lined up with the Lexus emblem, and it's right there, okay? So there you go. Okay, so on the left of the steering wheel, we also have our signals, left and right, and then you'll see this little button here. So this is for the auto high beams. So that's the auto, that's sort of the one click forward, which is parking lights. Then we have the headlights, or the blue octopus, which a lot of people say. To the right, then we have our fog lights on and off. So off, on, and then there's a little light. So that, when that light is on, that's when the auto high beams are on. So pretty easy there. Okay, so up, down, lights are all on that one. Now for the smart steering wheel. Okay, so with the advanced touch steering wheel, there are some tips and tricks to not only get the most out of it, but also sort of just be able to customize it and that sort of thing. So we'll start on the left. So on the left side, you'll see once you put your thumb on any of the surface area on the steering wheel, it'll light up on the heads-up display. Now, if you sort of keep your thumb to the left or to the right, it'll show you from factory on the left, the next or seek buttons for music. The bottom will give you the voice command. And I think if you hold that when you have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, it'll even do the voice assistant for that. And then the top is just to get to your phone. So if someone's calling you, you can hit that to make a call, etc. To the right, we have a fixed button. So these are volume up and volume down, which is the same thing. When you put your thumb over it, it'll still show you. And then when you press it, it'll actually press. And actually, it does a little cool animation. It'll just kind of like bounce there. And same with these buttons here. At the bottom of that, we have the different pages. So you could sort of press that to go from page 1, what I call it, to page 2. And on page 2, we still have left and right for previous and seek from factory. We have top for mode. So that's how you can switch from, you know, Sirius XM to FM to AM to whatever you want to do. And then the bottom one would be to turn on and off audio. So you can actually see a little bit of color there. You can actually see green for on, and then that'll go away for off. Now you can hold that little page button, I don't know what else to call it, to delete messages. So like right now the car is off, it's telling me all these different messages. I can clear that screen by holding this, even though those aren't on the heads-up display. So we'll show how to customize this in a few minutes, but over to the right side. So on the right side, we have some other fixed buttons. We have the adaptive cruise control. So that's a super important one to be able to activate your cruise control. And don't forget, this car, along with most of the new Lexus models, you can do that even at like city speeds. And lane tracing assist, which is another feature you should just kind of always have on. I really like that one as well. Then from the factory, we have the following distance setting, and it's not car lengths like a lot of people think. So 4 is in 4 car lengths, 3 is in 3, 2 is in 2. All I could say is even 2 is way more than 2 car lengths. So 4 is a very far distance. And then we have modes. You can turn it so that instead of adaptive cruise control, it's just regular cruise control. So Lexus has made it really easy. If you wanted to use old cruise control, you can still just do that, which is cool. Then if we go to the other page, we can move and adjust this display. So we can adjust the heads up and down, which is great because if you hop in someone's car that's a lot taller than you, it's not going to be lined up properly. But also we can change what we see on the other screen. So what I mean by that is we'll have audio, we'll have navigation, boost gauge. So the boost gauge will show up again, mostly on the main gauge cluster, but some of it's up on the heads up as well. A G-force meter, gear position, a blank one, or fuel consumption, average speed, elapsed time. Those are pretty cool metrics to look at. The eco indicator, which just gives you a little graph, and then back to, the driving support, which is like the cruise control and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool to be able to switch them. But we're going to show you how to customize them and make them even better. Okay, so to customize the steering wheel, what we're going to do is click the little gear sign in the bottom left corner. We're going to scroll to Vehicle Customize, which has some cool settings in here. And we're going to scroll down to Steering Switch. I don't know why they called it that here, but that's what we're going to go with. Now, super important message for all Canadians. If you hit Options, you can turn on Winter Gloves mode. So if you're going to have winter gloves on in your car and you want to use the advanced touch features, turn that on because it makes it more sensitive. Super important. So let's start with the left side and I'll show you how to customize and my favorite setup for this. So here's the factory layout. It's actually laid out under audio. There's also a climate layout, which gives you things like temperature up and down. You can change the mode of your HVAC system. So if it's blowing on your legs, your face, defrost, etc. Temperature up, down, so you have the modes, and then to the right, you just have the circulation. So if it's coming in the car or out of the car. Or you have custom. So custom is pretty cool. So under custom, now I can actually touch the buttons here and decide what. So I'm gonna change the audio left and right because the other page has that. And for this one, I actually might do, there's some HVAC stuff here. A lot of times I do, let's say I wanna control the fan. So now I can do fan, and now left is down for fan speed, right is up for fan speed. And if I wanted to change the temperature ones, maybe we want to do it so, I don't know, maybe we can just hit auto. So now we can have fan down, fan up, or auto for climate control, because I use that button sometimes. And now we just need one more. Maybe we'll just put it as actually that's audio mode. Maybe we'll just do it as air outlet mode. So now I have auto, so if I want to just click that, climate control to be the set temperature that I always leave it at, then I could go, lower and higher for fan speed. And if I decide I want to like turn on defrost or put on my legs or something, I can do that. So that's going to be the left side, and I'll show you what that looks like. For the right side, we have the same thing. So right now you have display left, right, heads up display up and down, which is pretty good. It sucks because it is nice having the display left and right, but I found out if you customize it, you can do some really cool ones here. So how I always do it is, and again, to each their own, I like that I can customize to have sport mode on my steering wheel. Then you could have normal mode as the right. So again, you could just go and turn it to normal drive mode. The bottom one, I put it as stop start. I thought that maybe I would use that sometimes, but now I'm actually really used to the stop start system. So I don't know, maybe I would change that in the future. And then the left one I put to the camera view, which I think is really cool. So let me show you what those do now on the steering wheel. Okay, so now that we have the customization on, so let's just look at, so again, we still have on the left side, we still have the next track, the voice command, the phone, that sort of thing. But now we've customized this page to be able to control like our fan speed. So we can crank up the fan speed. It shows us a little animation there. We can turn it down. We can just put it to auto, which is always super easy, where the car is going to do all the thinking for us climate control wise. And if you override it fan speed, it kicks off the auto. And then we could also just change the outlet mode, which again would kick off the auto. So we can do face, you know, defrost the legs, etc. So that's a cool thing. If you mess around with your climate control a lot, it's really cool to be able to have it on the steering wheel. Over to the right side, so again, we still have those fixed buttons, and because of that, we still have things like following distance and driving assist mode. Those are fixed type buttons on there. But if we go to page 2, now we have our new stuff. So we have a sport mode, which now will change all the gauge and, you know, the driving dynamic to be very sporty, make that gas touchy, that sort of thing. And we can go over to normal if we want, which actually I wanted to see, if you double tap sport, it doesn't turn it on and off. So you need the normal there. I have that start and stop at the bottom. Again, I'm used to that technology now, so I probably wouldn't do it. But what I would do is the panel view monitor. I think this is genius to have this on your steering wheel control, because let's say you're in a driving situation where you're getting, you know, you're at a red light and someone's getting close to you and you want to see, just bam, hit that button. If you're in gear, it's going to give you bird's eye view on your big screen, which I think is really cool. So this is how I would customize my setup for the steering wheel controls. Maybe I would change a few things as time goes on and tweak it a little bit, but I think it's really cool that you can customize it. Okay, so I know not everybody loves the steering wheel controls with the heads-up display and the intelligence system there. Give it a try. I promise you it gets better the more you use it. You do have to kind of lay it out the way you want and those sort of things. You know, to some people that want those physical buttons, it might be tricky to adapt. But I have gotten a lot more used to it and I do really like it. So make sure you give it a try. Now over to the center. So in the center console, we have, you know, our cup holders and our shifter. But let's zoom in sort of on these little guys here. So one of them is this little terrain button here. And really all that's doing on the screen is turning on that little terrain mode there to the left. And you can see it on and off with the little green light. That's what that one does. And it kind of changes the driving mode to be more focused on that. Then we have the traction control off. And again, we will see on the screen here that it does make it say traction control off. And that you're really only going to use if you're really stuck in the snow and you want all the power going to your wheels. If not, it is very dangerous to drive like that and it'll kick you out. The auto off feature, you can override and turn it off. So the auto off is what I call it. So that when you're at a red light or a stoplight and your foot's on the brake and you don't like that the engine shuts off, you can override that. Then we have downhill assist. So really good if you're on a mountainous road and you want to save on your brakes a little bit, you do that. It'll keep it in a gear and control it that way. Then we have our parking brake. So foot on the brake, down will release it, up will engage it, and you can hear that doing its thing when you do so. For the most part, I just let that automatically do its thing. When I put it in park, I hear it apply. When I put it in drive, I hear it disengage. Then we have brake hold. So brake hold is a cool feature where you are, you know, in a drive-through and your foot's on the brake and you want to give your leg a little bit of a rest. You hit that button, then you can sort of release your leg, give it a brake, and then when you hit the gas, it'll disengage that. Okay, now we have the new Lexus shifter. So on the shifter, the most important thing to point out is park is a button. So make sure you know that park is a button, and anytime you want to park, it's the button. Then to actually put it in gear, you put your foot on the brake. Over in back is drive. Let go, it'll click back in place. So again, over back, clicks back into place. To the left is neutral, and it'll automatically, it actually just popped in neutral even though the car's off. And then up, over and up, and snap back is reverse. Then we have a little manual mode. So if you just go straight down, that would put it in manual mode. And essentially you wouldn't go up and you wouldn't shift up and down in this. You would use your paddles, which is, I guess, a button I forgot to talk about, is the paddle shifter. So we have a left, which is shift down, and then right, which is shift up. So you can see the little plus and minus there. And that's how you can override your shifting, is in that. Then above that, we have our drive mode. So eco, normal, custom. Again, when I press the center again. Then over to the right is sport, and then sport plus. And now I'm going to show you all of those features in that exact same order on the TFT display here. So we have eco, then we have normal, and you can see it changing. Then we have custom, does a little change again. Then we have sport, and then sport plus. I always think it's cool that Sport and Sport Plus are very different on there. So Sport has like the circle with the tachometer. Sport Plus has, I don't know, that 1980s DeLorean vibe. I really like that. It's cool. So that's all that button does. Then we have our wireless charging port, which is not a button, so we're not going to talk about it, but it does open and close like that. Now we have our hazard and more vents. The vents are very textured and grippy, which is good. The hazard is something no one ever knows where it is until you need it. And it's really important as a salesperson, as a car salesperson, to show your guests where that button is, because you don't want to be on the side of the road and be like, oh my God, my car's breaking down. How do I tell? And you're like, you know, opening your sunroof and pulling down your visor, when meanwhile, you just gotta know that that button is right there in the center. So hazard's right in the center and it flashes as you would expect it to. Then the vents, again, so closed and then open to the left and right of that. Then we have our center button, which is the volume. So you can press and hold that. It'll reset the system if you ever needed it to. And it's also your volume knob. That's what that little power button is telling you, is that it is a power button and that this isn't a button, but this is. Then we have front defrost. So that'll fire up the HVAC system to really focus everything on the front. Then to the right of that is our heated mirrors and heated rear windshield. Okay, for the next button, it's actually the screen. Oh wait, a screen isn't a button, so we're not gonna do the screen. But I will say, these little dials are kind of a button and they're for the HVAC controls, they're grippy. That's how you do your climate. I know a couple people in the comments can be like, no, we want to know the screen. I have lots of video talking about the screen. Check out other videos on the channel, or maybe let me know in the comments below if I should do a 20-minute video on the screen. So let's move up, and usually somewhere in the car up here, there's usually a picture of me. Oh, there I am in the mirror. That's the picture of me right there. Below the picture of me is a few little buttons. So 3 little buttons for the garage door. So you can program HomeLink to either one of those 3 buttons. There's a process online to do that. And again, it is a little tiresome, so just make sure you watch the video. The mirror's actually tinting right now because of the camera. I haven't seen that before, that's fun. So this is our sunglass holder. So you just press that button, it opens up. And because you're all here, I have to do this really satisfying thing, and I'm gonna take off this sticker. Ready? There's nothing better than taking off stickers off a brand new car. So above that, we have another little control panel here in the headrest. Kind of reminds me of being on an airplane. The first one is to move the panoramic roof shade. Because it's the panoramic, it does have a powered shade. And to do that, you just press and hold it forward, and then you can press and hold it backward, and it'll open and close that sunroof. Then to the right of that, we have the sunroof itself. So this opens it all the way, and you just press and hold it for a second, and then it'll do its thing. I'm just gonna cancel that. And then above that one is the crack one. So that one just cracks it a little bit. And then to put it all back, you just hit the car back. And I know not a lot of people look up at your sunroof, because I wouldn't either, but the buttons will show a picture of a car, and that'll tell you what it's gonna do. Then we have the door button. So this is for the dome light, the auto feature. So if that's not on, you're gonna come into your car at nighttime and it's gonna be too dark and you're gonna hate yourself. So make sure that that little green light is on. Then we have an SOS button. We're not gonna press that because that's how you get to the call center for Lexus Canada or US or wherever you live. And it's gonna call the call center. So if you need an emergency, there'll be an operator to help you. Then we have these little soft touch. I know they're not a button. These little soft touch lights. So one is like a map light, one is like a dome light. When you hit the dome light, it does all the lights. When you hit the map light, it's just the map. So that's an important little bit of info. Okay, so as I exit, I'm gonna show you. So there's another little button here. So on the center armrest, we can open it from each side with this little button. The other little button is the seatbelt button, which I don't think has been innovated or changed in many, many years. It's the same, and it's always been the same, and it might always be the same. So then we also have a button here to raise and lower the 3-point seatbelt. So just up and down, it just sort of clicks into place, and that's that. And then there's also another little button right here to remove the headrest. So you just sort of like press and hold that, and you can slide that up. I don't recommend doing that in driving, but they do say if you were ever in a car accident where you're in the water, you can remove this and then use the little metal to smash a window. But I wouldn't recommend doing that either. I don't know. Okay, so going into the passenger side now, very same exact door handle to get in. However, now we just have less buttons over here. So we just have a single up and down for the window, But again, half click and then all the way. Lock and unlock the electronic door latch. And again, you can pull it towards you. There is no memory seats here. So that is important that a lot of people forget to look at. And that's everything on the front door. On the passenger seat, we do have just forward, backward. We don't have lumbar anymore. So it does get rid of the lumbar, even on this F Sport Series 3 package. Then when you're sitting in it, you have a glove box, which you have to use your thumb to open. It's kind of like it opens that way type thing. In there, usually there's some books and things like that. But again, glove boxes hasn't really changed in a lot of years. So it's kind of the same. And we have a vent just like the others here. And that's pretty much it for buttons for the passenger. It's definitely a driver focused car. Okay, so getting into the rear seat. So we do have a couple extra buttons here. One of them being on the door itself. So right inside that latch is the child lock. So if it's down, the outside handle will be the only way to enter, exit and enter. It'll make it so that this handle you can't use. So down is the child lock. Very old school. They haven't changed that in forever either, even though now it's more electronic, I'm sure, than mechanical. Although it does feel mechanical when you press it, when you open and close it. So that's that. On the passenger rear, we still have the electronic door handles, lock and unlock, the window switch, and no power seat. You can't actually, power recline or anything like that. However, there is a way to recline in the top left corner. So this, you can actually recline. So some people think it's just for folding down the seat, but you can actually use it to recline. So just that little lever, pull it, you can push, and that makes it so you can recline. Then once you're sitting inside, we have a few vents in the center, as well as some USB ports and stuff like that, but that's not a button. And then this folds down. There is these headrests that you have to press. You have to press this little side button to get them to go up and down. So that's that. Oh, there is a dome light back here, so you can turn on and off that. Right now all the doors are open, so it won't override it. But if you needed to override it, it is right there and super easy to use. Okay, let's open up the trunk. So really good, simple way to remember where the button is for that. It's right under the X. So see where the X is? If we go under it, that is the little pad you're gonna put your fingers on to open it up. It's kind of like beside the camera. So X, button, you're gonna squeeze that on this package. Some of them are still not powered, but for this one it is. And then to close it, what you would do is press the close. Now this one is technically a way you can lock it. So it's like if you got everything out of your car already and you wanted to hit that button and walk away, once you start to walk away, the car will shut that and then lock. I have trust issues. All my friends will tell you that. So I always just like to press the closing of the hatch and then as I walk away, press the lock. But that's just me. Once you're back here, we have, some little hooks and things like that. There really isn't a ton of buttons. You can reach the levers from the backs of those seats. There is a lot underneath here, which I've done other videos in the past on, but we don't need to get into that too much. But what we will do is just hit that button and it'll close. And while we're back here, I might as well just show you the gas door because it's already open. So it does say premium unleaded fuel only because it is the NX 350. This clicks in place and you can just sort of like hang it up on its little hanger there. So that's that. First thing you'll notice as you approach this new NX is this gorgeous front grille. It gives the vehicle a presence on the road, but doesn't sacrifice making sure it still has its own NX personality. Also, it comes available with triple beam LED headlights so that you can still stand out from the crowd and look good even at nighttime. This flows into a provocative side silhouette that flows all the way to the back of the vehicle. This side styling has a prominent stature that features both rounded body lines and chiseled sharp edges. It even has an available panoramic sunroof, which is a first in the NX lineup. Now at the back of the vehicle, you'll notice a big change. The rear logo has been replaced with a much more modern spelling of the word Lexus. But that's not all. You'll also notice a brand new rear light bar that can only be appreciated when viewed at nighttime. The cargo capacity has been increased, And a small detail, but an important one, is the tailgate opens smoother and faster than the previous model. The excitement doesn't stop on the outside. Let's take a look at the interior. Now, as you approach the new NX for the very first time, you'll experience my absolute favorite new feature in the entire vehicle, electronic door handles. Meaning, Lexus has thought out an ergonomic way to enter and exit the vehicle. Now, I know personally, when I go to exit any normal vehicle, I kind of use my hand to open the latch and my elbow and arm to push the door open. With Lexus's new handle, you do it all in the same motion by just applying pressure to the button on the door and push the door open. The interior is very spacious and incorporates what's called the Tizuna concept, which is kind of described as the connection between a rider and his horse. Meaning Lexus has thought out every control, button, feature to make sure that the driver has an emotional connection to the vehicle we're driving. This creates a less distracted driver and someone that feels more in control of the vehicle they're driving. Also in the interior, you'll find Takumi craftsmanship in many places you look. You'll find lots of room for passengers, even in the back seat, and more cargo room as well. The cabin also greets you with an ambient lighting system that can be customized to fit your mood and style. The Lexus Safety System 3.0 comes standard, and we now have features like wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, a Mark Levinson sound system, wireless charging, and much more. Speaking of tech, you might notice this massive, beautiful interface screen in the center of the dashboard. This is the new Lexus interface with intelligent assistant, digital key, remote connect, and more. It's paired to an optically bonded glass screen, meaning it gives beautiful definition and a quick response. Not to mention, look how cool the climate control knobs even look. The Lexus Assistant is one of the coolest pieces of technology that I've ever seen in the Lexus lineup. By simply saying, "Okay, Lexus,
what would you like to do?"
the vehicle comes alive and can help you with multiple different tasks. Now, under the hood, we have a hybrid power plant that boasts 240 net horsepower. More impressively than that, the fuel economy is able to achieve a combined 6 liters per 100 kilometers. The new NX Hybrid is Lexus's answer to one of the quickest luxury SUV markets that's growing right now. It also showcases what Lexus has coming in the near future. A brand direction that's going to highlight performance, hybrid, electric, and the Lexus driving signature that we've all grown to love.
I'm going to show you how to get the most out of your new Lexus NX. Introducing for the first time in any Lexus, electronic door handles. To use this, simply apply pressure to the switch indicated and you will hear a door actuator activate. In the event when your car battery dies, don't panic, you can still use this feature manually. From the inside, you pry outwards on the handle as shown. However, on the outside, you first need to find this little lever and pry outwards. It does take a little bit of force.
Starting with the styling of the NX, this particular one is the F-Sport model, which gives us this gorgeous front aggressive spindle grille along with the triple beam LED headlights with the Lexus signature daytime running light above the headlight. Some other features of the NX in the F-Sport model are the fact that there's actual usable vents on the sides of the bumpers that create some cooling for the brakes and the tires, and also we still have our headlight washers, which is really nice. Moving to the side, we see some big differences as well. We have blacked out rims to match the blacked out mirrors. We have color matched fenders, which is new for the new body style. But when you look at the side profile of the NX, you can tell that it doesn't really flow down, it actually opens up. So it's a little bit more of like a hatchback rather than a sloping saloon. The NX was our first vehicle in the new lineup to have the brand new Lexus emblem. Instead of having the little circle with the L in it, we now have it spelt out. Also, it was one of the first to have the new taillight setup. So we have broken up on the sides with this top piece kind of bridging the gap between the two of them, as well as some decorations to the bottom because it is the F-Sport model. Also, the NX has an exposed wiper. So sitting in the new NX, the layout is pretty similar to the RX, but there are some big differences. One of them is just how compact it feels, which a lot of people like. Don't forget, when the NX first came out, it was more based on the IS platform, where they wanted everything to feel sporty, feel a little bit more compact, and that's exactly what they did. It still feels like a cockpit. We have some beautiful decoration on the doors. Everything's kind of in your eyesight, and you still have the ability to just within reach, switch different drive modes and things like that. Now, they still went with a very minimalistic and with a very visually appealing layout. It's simplistic, it's not overwhelming, and it feels like everything is right there, sort of hugging you. Now, it is important to mention, this one is the Sport Series 1, so it has a little bit smaller of a screen, but the new Sport seats are absolutely amazing. If you ever sat in an older NX, like a 2015 or 2016, and you didn't like the Sport seats, I'm telling you, they've come a long way, and it might be worth checking out. So when comparing the NX to the RX, the biggest difference in the inside is definitely the back seat. I'm 6'1", and I had the front seat set up for someone who's also 6'1", and I definitely fit. My legs fit, my head fits, I have room. However, if I had to sit back here with two other big guys, for instance, it would feel a little bit cramped, but it's kind of supposed to. This is the compact luxury SUV in our lineup, so it didn't need to be super spacious back here, and that kind of helped it with its compact, sporty personality, where if they made it too big, there wouldn't be a big enough difference. But for two people, for instance, there's still lots of comfort. We can put the armrest down, there's some cup holders there. We have some different charging ports towards the bottom, two USBs, and just a regular 12-volt outlet. So it would definitely be totally fine for two people, and especially even around town. So what about cargo space? Even though it is more of a compact SUV, there still is lots of room. And now with the new redesign, that hatch opens a lot quicker. But does it pass the golf club test? Let's see. Okay, maybe not exactly on a driver, but if you go on an angle, there is a cavity on each side. You could definitely fit at least two golf bags, maybe one of those pull carts, but you'd probably have to fold down one of the seats, so don't have a bunch of people with you. But if it's two people going golfing, you could at least fit all your gear and it should be no problem. If you want a small SUV to be able to zip around the city with your friends, fit maybe one set of golf clubs or two set of golf clubs, I would do the NX. Today, I want to show you my 5 favorite features on the 2024 NX Hybrid. But before I get into it, make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content. Okay, so the first feature is proactive driving assist. And to turn that on in the NX, you're gonna hit the 6 little squares, I guess you could call them, to pull up that little quick screen. You're gonna scroll over and make sure that proactive driving assist is on. Now, how proactive driving assist works is there's like a safety bubble around the vehicle. So as you're driving, if you're in the city and some traffic in front of you starts to slow down, you'll kind of just feel the car slow down and apply the brakes for you, and it can even bring it to a stop. And again, you will start to rely on it a little bit, or I did at least, but I really like it. It's like that added level of safety, that added level of attention, and in my opinion, one more step towards autonomous driving. My second favorite feature is the digital rear view mirror. So when I'm sitting here, I can just have a regular mirror across, or I can hit this little switch, and all of a sudden it goes to a screen that's hooked up to a camera in the back. The camera for the digital rear view mirror is located just at the top of the rear windshield. So it's covered over by a little bit of a lip, and also it's in the sweeping motion of that rear windshield wiper, so that even in the rain or snow, that rear view camera, the digital one, is gonna still be able to give you that rear view. Number 3 is this little screen that I just call the car screen. So on the left-hand side of the home screen, there's this little car, and if you press on it, it shows you all the energy flow in the hybrid. So there's like kind of like arrows, whether you're charging up the battery, or if the engine's running, or if the braking is charging the system. And it's just very pleasing. It's kind of like a cartoon, and it's just kind of cool to watch when you're driving. Number 4 is intelligent park assist, which means when I press this little P button, And you'll find one called EV driving ratio on the hybrids. It's really cool. Right now mine says 71%, meaning on this trip, 71% of the driving was done in electric vehicle mode, which is really cool. So it's kind of like a little score that I like to watch. It means if you have a higher score, you're saving gas and that you're using more of that EV battery.
So let's start off by talking about my absolute favorite, brand new to the Lexus lineup feature, wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. To activate this feature, start by pairing your phone, making sure you have the appropriate settings on your phone activated. After a few moments, an icon on the top left will pop up. Click on this and you will have access to things like Google Maps, Waze, Spotify, and all of your other favorites. You will notice this changes the entire look of the screen. It is almost like you're having your phone displayed on a larger screen. If you ever need to get back to the Lexus screen, simply click the Lexus logo in the menu and you're home. On the new Lexus interface screen, there is a way to view all the safety features in one organized page. To do this, click on this button here, and you will see things like blind spot mirrors, lane departure, safe exit assist, rear cross traffic alert, and many more depending on the trim of your vehicle.
So the NX350H is actually the only conventional hybrid and also self-charging hybrid in that segment right now, meaning you can put gas in it, and you can put regular gas in it, by the way. Even though it says premium is recommended, it's not required for the 350H. And sometimes the electric motor is going to work, sometimes the gas engine is going to work, and most of the time they're just going to be working together. This is very different than something like a mild hybrid, which is more just assisting when the vehicle is stopped or at really slow speeds and never on like a full electric power. And obviously it's very different than a plug-in hybrid where you can actually run full EV without the electric motor and charge it up by like plugging it into to like a stage 2 or even your house and stuff like that. So on the NX350H, we have a 2.5 liter gas engine paired with 3 electric motors. We have 2 under the hood and 1 in the rear to give it the all-wheel drive power. The result is amazing fuel economy, no stress about any type of, plugging stations or, that range anxiety that a lot of plug-in vehicles have right now. And then also just a really smooth ride, which is a great result as well. I personally love the hybrid direction instead of going full plug-in right now. That's just my own personal preference, but I'll talk to you a little bit why. One of the big things that I get asked all the time is why doesn't Lexus have more plugins right now? We do have the RZ coming, but it's not really readily available at a lot of dealerships right now. Instead, we have a ton of hybrids, and sort of when I talked to Lexus about this, some of the feedback they gave me was when you look at the big picture of the industry right now and kind of what's happening with so many brands putting all of their resources, and what I mean by resources is the materials that are required to make those really high output, big range batteries like lithium. And instead Lexus said, well, instead of making, a handful of plug-in vehicles using, massive batteries, instead we can use a lot smaller battery, a lot smaller resources, and make, 100 hybrids for every 4 plug-in, full plug-in vehicles out there. So this result would be, is what they think, in a little bit more of a more sustainable approach to, making the enviro a little bit more, eco-friendly and things like that when it comes to emissions. So I really like that answer. I think it's really cool. I thought it was more about the infrastructure, especially here in Canada right now. There's not a ton of charging stations. And even with my own personal experiences, when I have found charging stations, there's only been like, 4 in a parking lot at a mall, 3 of them are taken, maybe 1's not working, and then I have to wait for someone anyway. So right now, I would definitely go hybrid over plug-in, but that's my own personal preference. Put in the comments what you guys think. But anyway, let's check out the NX. So looking at the front, this one is the executive model. You'll see that it is in the Grecian blue color, which I absolutely love. And the grille is kind of this off-color gray, which adds a really nice contrast. One of the things that I really like, and it's so silly because most people would definitely overlook it, is when you look at like the rubber seals around a vehicle, they're kind of never black. And for some reason, it kind of complements nicely with this grille. There's a little bit of pearl to that grille too. It's the new take on the executive and luxury version of the spindle grille. So it's not super aggressive. It definitely kind of captures a little bit of presence there, even versus the bigger brother RX, which you can see in the background behind me. So on the front, we have a really nice, elegant, but not overly aggressive grille, which I absolutely love. And also we have the multi kind of triple beam LED headlights. This is, in this package, adaptive. Now, some other brands have called this, matrix lighting or, intelligent lighting and stuff like that. This is an intelligent adaptive headlight. And what I really like about that is it's kind of the new version of auto high beam. It used to be that when you had your auto high beam, it used to drive me crazy because I'd be driving and every street light, my high beams would turn off or on. And when a car would be coming, it would turn off and then back on, and another car would come and it would go off and on. With the intelligent headlights, essentially it turns off the actual LED bulb that the object or pedestrian or car is in. So there's some cool videos online about it. It's really hard to recreate this in a showroom, but when you see it in action, especially in like a foggy day or snow or rain, it just shows that you can have so much more of that high beam on and just turn off the section where the oncoming traffic is, or maybe the car crossing over your path. And it just creates more light, and it's great, especially on dark Canadian roads. So that's what we have there. We have our daytime running light just above that, and above the daytime running light is where the signals are. It's another thing not a lot of people look at when shopping for cars is how do the signals look? Because it's not something that we see sort of when the car is parked or when the car is running, but others see when we have our turn signal on. And I know it's always caught your attention when you see a luxury car and it's got a nice, LED strip for the turn signal, or one of the ones that kind of have a little bit more motion to it. And Lexus did a great job on these ones as well. Below the headlight, we do still have the headlight washer. Not all packages have that. This one is the 350H Executive. I think in some of the F Sports and things like that, it does get rid of it. But it is still a cool feature to see, especially when salt and stuff like that plays a big part in our roadways. You'll see we have some sensors on the bumper for parking sensors and front cross traffic alert, things like that. And then some piano black accents that actually have some cooling vents there too. And you'll see a little kind of elements here beside the fog light that fires on when you're doing any type of turning. It's kind of like a cornering lamp. Again, really cool feature when you're on a dark road that might not have too much street lighting for curb lights and stuff like that. It just fires that light on to give you a little bit more idea of what's beside you. So that's the front end. I really like it. Let me show you the side profile, because the NX, in my opinion, can be a little bit misleading. Sometimes I see pictures online and it makes it look super small. Sometimes when I see them parked in person, like in the showroom, it seems small, but outside it seems really big. So it really depends on kind of your angle and the style and things like that. But taking a look, the silhouette you'll see kind of favors the front end to have a little bit longer, and then as it flows to the back, it kind of gets to be like a little bit more of a stubby hatchback design. Again, remember what N stands for in NX is nimble. And when you look at the way the sportiness of the back kind of goes up to make sure we have some really good headroom for those rear seat occupants, but then slopes off like a hatchback, it kind of gives you that vibe of exactly what Lexus is trying to do. We also have these unique wheels to the executive package with the kind of dark gray, almost black textured fenders. On the gas model of the NX, on like an F Sport, for instance, that would be more painted. So on here, it does kind of complement and blend in nicely with that same sort of piece at the bottom of the door. I've never really known the reason for those, but I do think it must protect a little bit from things on the road, like stones, stuff like that, because it's just a softer, more forgiving material than like actual paint. And with a beautiful color like this, it would suck if your paint had a bunch of chips on the bottom, because you have to touch that up or paint it, because it's a blue, beautiful car and you can't be driving around like that. We also see a little bit of black tied in here with some chrome. The chrome on the mirror matches kind of the whole silhouette of the side of those windows, as well as the piano black matches that center molding as well. So still pretty similar to the last generation NX, but it's just a modern take on it. It's not a big difference, but it's still there. And then on the electronic door handles, we do have some black as well. As we get to the back of the vehicle, you'll see, again, full-size back door, so really easy to get in and out of, even for a small car. Even though when you look at the measurements of this car in the segment, in terms of like length and things like that, it is still one of the longer ones. And I think most of that is backseat space, because when you compare cargo capacity in the segment, a lot of the vehicles have very similar. It's just a matter of like usable space. But I've noticed getting in and out of a lot of cars in the segment. I'm 6'1", so if I'm gonna notice it's hard to get into one, I usually pay attention to like the shape of the door and stuff like that. This one, it's fine. It's not like I don't feel like I'm getting into a small car by any means. So that's something to think about when you're shopping. Going to the rear, so the NX was one of the first vehicles in the new kind of take on the Lexus branding. And the big part of that was the LEXUS instead of that Lexus emblem that was just kind of on the back, similar to what we saw on the front. And that was one of the first vehicles. I absolutely love it. I think it's a rebranding that needed to be done, and it kind of captures your eye when you're sitting behind one of these in traffic. So big fan of it, absolutely. And also it was one of the first for the new taillights. So having sort of the broken up on the sides, and then combination lamp included, and then that one strip that goes kind of from left to right or right to left. And again, when you're in traffic and you see one of these 1 car, 2 cars, 3 cars ahead of you, it looks really cool. The wiper is exposed and it's at the bottom of the windshield. On something like the bigger brother RX, it's actually hidden underneath the rear sort of fin here, but on the NX, and that's a good way to tell the difference between the two when you see them driving, is the NX will always be exposed. So that is something as well. Looking at the rear bumper, we do have this other little decoration here. It's kind of like a bumper guard, I guess you could say. It says Lexus on it, and then below that we have more of a matte black sort of finish. Interesting question I was asked the other day was, why do most cars now not really accentuate the exhaust ports? So you'll notice that it was even 4 or 5 years ago, any car in this segment had sort of like an integrated exhaust port with chrome. It really caught your eye. Sometimes with some brands, it was even fake. It was like a fake exhaust port just to show that it was there. And now you'll notice as you drive around, it's actually starting to be phased out of the industry. And the answer is, which is my take on it, is we know in the next 5, 10, 15 years, EVs are going to be way more dominant than they are now, and probably outnumber gas cars on the road if the predictions are true. And having cars now come out, even though this one does have a gas engine, there is an exhaust pipe under there, now come out without that exhaust sort of sitting there, it kind of future-proofs it a little bit so that it doesn't look super out of place when it's driving around with this big exhaust stack when most of the cars on the road are gonna be EVs. That's my own take on it. I could be totally wrong, Lexus. Put in the comments maybe what you think, but that was just my own take on it because the way the industry is going and that sort of thing. So taking a look at the cargo space. So again, this segment is really similar for cargo space, and actually the NX doesn't have a ton less space than the bigger brother RX. When you buy a new NX, you do get a few accessories for free, like the that kind of be string up across. The summer mats, which most people in Canada, I think, just leave in their trunk in the plastic bag or in their garage. And then also sort of like a carpet mat. This one we did put a cargo liner in. So the cargo liner, it's just a little bit more durable. It's easier to clean up. Like when you spill anything on this nice carpet, it's hard to sweep, I find. So having the cargo liner does protect, but also just makes it a little bit cleaner. And also it's kind of got this nice metal Lexus emblem, which is kind of cool because it makes it so, you could tell it's a genuine accessory. Also, little hack that I found out after spending some time with the NX is there's a massive storage capacity back here. Since it doesn't have a spare tire and uses run flats, this space is absolutely open. So I would probably put like some cleaning products in there just because if I'm crazy like that, maybe some Windex, definitely a microfiber, I don't know, anything else that I might need, probably tire shine because I always like a black shiny tire. I would just keep it back there. It wouldn't spill anywhere. And even if it did, it's all plastic, so it'd be easy to clean. And it's one of those things that you never know when you need it. Also, my favorite when it comes to SUVs is when there's a hook for your groceries. And there is. We can put this little hook down, hook on your plastic bag, which probably shouldn't be using plastic bags anymore because everybody's switching to paper and reusable bags. So maybe put on your reusable bag on that hook so that your Wonder Bread doesn't go flying across your trunk, which happens to me quite regularly, way more than I would like to admit. Also, that cargo liner that I talked about does continue on the back of the seats. So when you fold down the seats and you have some IKEA furniture in there, it's not gonna scratch the carpet on the back of the seat, because that carpet can be easily scratched, especially if you have like a corner of a piece of wood from Home Depot. It could rip through that pretty easy on any car. That cargo liner really protects that. And it still gives you access that if you had child seats in the back, you could still loop around that extra anchor because they've opened up a little window for it. On here we have the tonneau cover. Now the tonneau cover is a soft one, so it does fold up, you can store it, but it is soft. It's kind of just a privacy cover, so if you have valuables in the trunk and you're parked, someone can't just look through the window and see what you have back there. So I used to just get rid of these in a lot of my cars, but I've changed and now I keep it in because I don't want someone seeing my camera bag in the back and smashing a window to try and get it. So it just kind of gets rid of that temptation that could be there. But anyway, overall, great storage capacity. It's a nice height to load things into. And it does have this little scuff plate here too, just, you know, as you're loading in and out of boxes. And on the Executive, there is power switches back here to fold down those rear seats by using, you know, a couple electronic switches, and you can hold them and it'll pull them down. So anyway, that's the trunk. Okay, so now for the absolutely favorite part of the new NX, which is the door handles. So these are the new E-latch door handles. We've seen this in the RX. We're gonna see it in a lot more cars. And to open it, you're just gonna squeeze a little bit and it's gonna open up. There's like a little touchpad in there. On the inside of the door is my actual favorite part of that system. And that's the fact that you can just use your thumb to open the door. So you're just gonna apply pressure there. And in one motion, you're going to kind of just push using your hand and the rest of your arm, instead of the awkward thing that we've all done for years, which is pulling a handle and then using like our elbow to kind of push open the door, which in turn wears out that soft injected molding that all of the luxury cars have had. Now, there is a failsafe. If the car is dead, you can just kind of apply pressure to this little thing right here and it'll open it up. So it does kind of hurt when you do it, but it does work when you need to. And from the inside, you can just kind of like put your finger behind it and pull outward. Sometimes you'd have to do it twice just to activate it, but it does work that way. And sometimes people just do that anyway because they forget how to get out. Now, the interior of this NX Executive is the rich cream interior. Super, super unique. I absolutely love it. It has a two-tone sort of vibe that kind of brightens the cabin. And what I mean by that is anywhere that your clothes are touching is black. So you don't have to worry about the staining of, you know, something like an off-white leather, but on all the other spots, it's that off-white that sort of brightens up the cabin and accentuates some of, you know, the features of the interior. Also, it has this really nice orange stitching that it just matches it very well. You'll see that on those soft injected door panels, as well as some of the leather treatments throughout the cabin, as well as even the stitching on the steering wheel has that too. Now, the wood also does feel very high-end. It is an open pore matte black wood. And this particular model also has the Mark Levinson sound system, which has been improved greatly over the past years and is it's never talked about for some reason. Now in Canada, you have to get the executive package to get that. I think in other markets, you might correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can maybe just add that to certain packages, but definitely worth the money. However much the Mark Levinson costs, pay it because it's great. So anyway, that's my advice for you. Let's check out the driver's side. So sitting in the cabin, I'm reminded about how many features the new Executive NX350H has. We have a button here for Intelligent Park Assist, where if you're in a parking lot, you can press that button and the car can parallel park itself, or just regular park itself, I guess you would call it. And it pops up on the screen. You can pick a parking spot. The car will either drive forward or reverse, depending on how you picked it, and do all the parking for you. It's not as awkward as you would think. The steering wheel does whip around and do its thing. You don't have to touch the brake or anything like that. And it does a really good job in the right scenarios. I have tried it where the parking lot was really rainy or the lines weren't too, I guess, easy to see for the sensors, and it did kind of struggle a bit, but for the most part, it does a pretty good job. Would I use it all the time? No. But if I was someone that maybe wasn't as comfortable parking, it would be maybe a solution for that, especially in like a parking garage. But I do like it. We also have bird's eye view. So again, in those tough parking situations, you can press the button right under that. And it's bird's eye view, and it uses magic so that when you see the top of your vehicle and you're starting to move one way or the other, it sort of shows you what's also underneath your vehicle. So if you're parked on a line, it'll actually like show you just by using the data that it gathered from the cameras, not actual magic. The cabin itself does feel pretty compact and like a cockpit, which is definitely what they're going for. The RX, the bigger brother RX, is way more spacious in terms of the layout, but I do kind of like the way it feels. Everything is facing me, it's all pretty close, and we still have the drive switch that is actually super easy to kind of reach. It's just in the center here. We have Eco, Normal, and Sport on this model. And there's also an EV mode button here, which will just kind of try to override that gas engine and make it full EV for a short time if the conditions are right. So if you have your AC, your heated seats, and all that stuff cranked, it's probably still gonna kick on the gas engine, but in certain situations, you can kind of turn that on. We use it for coming in and out of the showroom all the time. It just sort of helps. And there's sort of like an off-road button to the side of that. The shifter is what we've seen in like the LC and the LS and the hybrids in the lineup, where it just kind of snaps back to the center. I really like it. I always point out to people how to use it just because it is a little different from past models, but it is nice. Also, I won't be able to show you right now, but the ambient lighting has gotten a lot better too. We can now customize it, change colors. It's not as bright as some of the competition, and I'll tell you why. I've noticed that in some of the other brands, it looks really cool when you have really bright ambient lighting. Like, it's really cool when you're parked. You're like, oh, I can see everything. It kind of feels like I'm in a nightclub. But when you're driving, if it's maybe a blue or a red that's really bright, I notice it kind of is a distraction on my eyes. So I'm not super mad that it's not very bright, the ambient lighting here, when you're able to customize it. I like that you can change the tone of it and the brightness and all that stuff to match, and it's still pretty good. So check that out. You have to see it in the dark, but it is nice. The screen, super easy to use. I always use Android Auto because I find car manufacturers over the years just haven't been able to keep up as well with phone companies when it comes to interfaces. Using the Android Auto, it uses that Android interface, and I know all of my friends that use iPhones love the Apple CarPlay version of it, and it just makes it really easy to use, integrates well. I can, ask the assistant on there to make phone calls or check the weather or blah, 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 and it works a lot better than any other system. If you don't want to use it, the Lexus system is still there and it is still usable. You still can use cloud-based navigation. You can still use a virtual assistant through Enform and things like that. So it is still there, even if you don't want to use that aspect of your phone, but anyway, you should. Also, we have a rear view mirror that also has the ability to switch to the camera, which is mounted at the back. So again, if you have too much cargo in here, too many suitcases because you're on your way to the airport or whatever, or maybe you have a really tall person in the back seat, you can switch that on the executive package and see a camera that's kind of poised out the back. Otherwise, the cabin just has a really nice, a mix of class, style, and a little bit of modern updates. Like I said, really like the orange stitching. I think it's really nice, and it's a nice touch to it, but that's only in this interior color, so you'd have to pick this. Also, we do have a heads-up display on this one with intelligent little touch panels here on the steering wheel. What that does is it makes it so you can customize some of the steering wheel controls to be what you want to see, and instead of just having 4 arrows on each side, it actually makes it 8 because of those 2 different pages. So that's something to play with. It will take some getting used to. I love the adaptive cruise control on this. When I'm driving, I set that as soon as I can, and it keeps me in my lane. It keeps the speed relative to the people around me. It's super accurate. You can use it even in the city, although I don't know if you're supposed to, but I do anyway. And it's never put me in a situation that I was uncomfortable. And also on most NXs, so anything ultra luxury and above in Canada, I'm not sure about other markets, is you can hold sort of the turn signal a half click for 2 seconds, whether it's right or left. So not a full click, remember, half click. And it'll do lane change assist when you're on the highway. So if you set your cruise control, you have it super comfy, you're moving, you wanna change lanes. If you hold half click for 2 seconds, the car will check your blind spot, make sure there's no one there, and also change lanes for you in a really safe manner. Some people will say, well, that's not, well, what's the point of that? You have to do it and pay attention anyway. I really like it. I just think it's just one of those extra cool, one more level towards autonomous. And I think it's, I don't know, it's just really cool to use. So anyway, that's my take on the interior. There is panel roofs and there is other things to go over, but for the most part, I just wanted to kind of touch on a few of those things. Oh, and sorry, one more thing. You can open the armrest from both sides, which first came out in the LX when they redesigned it in 2018, and just a cool feature. And there's USB-C plugs everywhere, so that's another thing too. Anyway, let me check out the back seat. So in the back seat, I'm 6'1". I do have plenty of headspace and definitely enough leg space to be able to fit back here, probably with 2 other people, but definitely more comfortable with 1 other person for a longer drive. The rear seats do recline a little bit, so it is a little bit more comfortable that way too. And I can fold down this little armrest to be able to, you know, either create a little bit of a barrier between me and the person beside me, also put our drinks, and also have a little bit of an armrest. Also, we do have 2 USB-C ports here at the back and the classic 12-volt regular kind of car outlet. They used to call a cigarette lighter, but they don't anymore. And we also have 2 heated seats for that passenger and for me. And I think you could fit two child seats back here, I think would be the magic number if I had to guess. And the fact that it's got the panel roof does create a little bit extra light. And they didn't cheap out on, you know, any of the door panel stuff. So we still have some exposed wood trim and also the Mark Levinson stamp here for the sound system, and also the e-latch door handle, stuff like that. So the back seat still a place to be. Is it a massive, you know, sedan back here? No, but for most people, it's gonna be totally fine. Especially if you're just driving some friends around or have a couple car seats, it'll work for anybody, I think. So if you're in the market for a small SUV or crossover, definitely take a look at the NX. It's not that long of a wait right now. Inventory levels are rising. It's great on gas. There's no range anxiety because of it's a self-charging hybrid, and it is a full hybrid, by the way. And it's not that much more money for a base model than something like a RAV4. So definitely check it out. The ride is smooth, the handling is good, and it's a Lexus at the end of the day. Today, I'm gonna answer the question, what is the difference between the old NX versus the new, fully redesigned NX? But before I get into that, make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content, as well as some other automotive stuff, and we'll get right into it. So this one here is a 2021 NX 300 in the F Sport Series 3 package. So the F Sport Series 3 package is the fully loaded for the 2021 model year. And the one I have on this side is a 2024 F Sport Series 2. And I'll kind of get into the differences of the packages, but mainly we'll do a quick overview. So looking at the front end, on the F Sport Series 3 in 2021, you got a triple beam LED headlight with the daytime running light, lower, more integrated into the bumper. The rest, we have some smoked out chrome around the grille. I really like the smoked out grille, chrome, but it is a little bit hard to clean. It does show water droplets, so you do have to keep on it so that doesn't sort of stick out when you're looking at it. And at the very bottom, we have this gorgeous silver painted lip, and it's kind of like a matte finish, so it should be a little bit more durable for, you know, water, dust, stone chips, stuff like that. And then we have this little decoration here. It doesn't seem to be actually an active vent in any sort, but it does hide the parking sensor quite well, so it doesn't stick out too far there, which is something I think Lexus has done a pretty good job in later years, is hiding those sensors so that you can't see them from a mile away. I mean, if you're looking for them, they're definitely there, but it does help to kind of tuck them into something like that. And then we have some lighting at the very end of the bumper here. And also too, I did notice that this little angle here is quite nice, and it kind of has like a front diffuser right beside it, but that just adds a little bit extra sporty. I think if they shaved that off, the front end wouldn't look nearly as aggressive. And then just that normal F Sport spindle grille, absolutely gorgeous. It's nice, it's big, it captures your eye, and then the Lexus emblem is right in the center of that. Also, I will point out the hood. So the hood lines on the previous generation sort of is just on an angle. It kind of just opens up in kind of the shape of a triangle there. So we have a line at the edge here, and then a line sort of going into the center, and that lines up perfectly with the top of that grille. and then it's just flat throughout. Over to the new one. So a little bit different styling, but similar in a lot of ways too. The first thing you'll notice is the nose of it comes out further. Instead of being nice and the grille buttoned up to the hood, it does have a little bit of a panel here, and then that grille is like a straight down grille. We're seeing that a lot in the lineup, same with the RX 350 and 500 right now as well. And then the headlights, so this is an F Sport Series 2, it just has the single beam LED headlight. If you were to go up a package, you would get the triple. Now on the previous generation, you would get that triple at a lower package. I think it was F Sport Series 2, maybe even F Sport Series 1, probably 2, where now you have to go all the way up. Sometimes for the first couple model years of a redesign, they'll do that and then change it later on. So we have that, and then the daytime running light is integrated in there. So it's not separated, it's not sort of like into the bumper, it is into that headlight lens. It seems to be a more frosted glass, and it does look a little bit sharper and a little bit brighter, and I think that's because it's so close to the headlight. And the signals and stuff like that are all part of that as well. In terms of the venting here, so it does seem to be active. There actually is airflow going into there, and there is more of a lip around that vent as well. Probably to hopefully actually capture the air. That's probably what it's doing there. And then the lip at the bottom still does come out quite a bit, and I would say that's the most similar to the previous generation, is the fact that the lip is the same color, it sticks out, it's generally the same shape, but you'll notice around the grille surround, it's not the smoked out chrome anymore. It's just fully blacked out. So I do like that. I think it's easier to maintain and looking nice, and also having those types of accents blacked out, I think it's always been in style and won't go out of style. So I really like that as well. And then at the bottom, we do have a little bit different diffuser here. It's at the top instead of underneath that lip. And then that's pretty much it as far as the bumper is concerned. The hood has a different shape to it. So instead of having an angular line that is just kind of like a triangle, the hood line actually wraps around. So there is, instead of just being a straight body line, it has some curvature towards the front, and it gives, that combined with the new grille and that little nose, gives it a bigger, sort of a bigger face to it. And a lot of times people think that, oh my God, the new NX got so much bigger. It did get a little bit bigger, but because of those types of body lines, it looks bigger, it looks taller, it looks wider. So that's definitely contributing to that. The fact that it just kind of curvatures around there. And then there is a nice little swoop here as well. So it stays big at the top center and then kind of lowers into the headlight after that. And combined, again, just makes that front end look a little bit bigger. And you can probably see that right on camera here when you're looking at them sort of parked beside each other. Okay, the side profile of the 2021 NX300. A few things to point out here. One of them that you'll notice right away is the chrome. So even though it's an F Sport, it does have chrome sort of wrapped around both of the windows and pillars, and it's sort of ties in with that silver roof rack as well. So it's not the only silver on the side of the car, but it still kind of sticks out a little bit, I would say. The wheels themselves are, I think these ones are 18-inch. They're 18-inch, and it's like a hyper silver, I guess you could say. So it's not super dark. It does have a little bit of lightness to it. And then there is some chrome on the mirror here as well. So those are the three sort of bright accents. In terms of body lines, we have this seam that goes sort of from the front to the back, and it's above the handles. And on that C-pillar, they sort of connect. It sort of kind of goes back into that one triangle shaped. We have some matte black fender flares. So these here above the tires, again, probably just to protect it a little bit, and a tiny bit at the bottom, not a ton, but there is a little bit of that matte black at the bottom. The handles themselves are the same ones that we've seen in, the RX since like 2016. There is a seam that lights up when you approach them at nighttime. It's kind of a tried and true design, and they work well as well. Also, I should mention there is a signal light at the end of the mirror also. And then the F Sport logo, obviously, on the fender tells us that it's the F Sport. Over to the 2024. So at first glance, if you just saw the 2024 by itself, you might think that it has a lot of the same silhouette, but it is quite different. So now, instead of being a full bright chrome, it is a smoked chrome. And it's not the fully blacked out chrome from the front, it is a separate chrome. So smoked out chrome there. Oddly enough, it's regular chrome on the mirror. And I don't know if that was an oversight or on purpose, I'm not too sure, but the chrome on the mirror is not smoked out, it is regular. Body lines, we see that same seam, but instead of being above the handle, it actually is right in the center of the handle. And then it kind of swoops up in a triangle form to that C-pillar as well. And then there's a new line that sort of continues just above the handle there. A little bit more plastic at the bottom. So the matte black plastic does seem to be a bit bigger on this one. There's a little bit more of a shelf there. Again, that could be to protect a little bit. And it's actually blacked out, or sorry, not blacked out, but it is painted body color fender flares. And actually, I noticed there's a little bit more to that as well. The wheels are bigger, and instead of being a lug nut design, they're like a lug bolt design. These ones here are 20-inch. These ones are 20-inch, and they are painted black. So again, they're not body color, they're not metallic. It's like a gloss black. So that works out pretty well. The door handles are the new design. So 2023 and up has the electronic door handles. I've said that in a lot of my videos that I love these. I would say the look of the old ones are better, but the function of the new ones are my favorite. I think they're so much easier to get in and out of the vehicle, especially out. So I am definitely a big fan of that. Also, they kept the same F-Sport logo. So it's not the new one that we've seen on like the 500 or some of the other, the ES350 F-Sports. It is the exact same as that old one. And sort of the final thing on the side profile here would just be the roof racks. They're black, they're gloss black. So they're not that silver anymore. So overall, there is less silver, there's less, of a contrast between the accents. It does sort of all blend together and give you a little bit more of that stealth look, especially in the caviar black, which is what we have here. Now, over to the previous generation, NX300. So looking at the rear, obviously we have the Lexus emblem. We have, a different taillight design where it's just that L shape sort of. Fun fact about that L shape, and this was a guest of mine told me this, back in like 2017 or something like that, is the way they've designed it is that even in the seam between the hatch and the fender, there is still light. So if someone's sitting behind you in traffic and your taillights are on, or it's nighttime or whatever, you can still see light. There's no gap in the light, which is really cool detail that not many people would notice, and I didn't notice until someone pointed it out. We have a decent amount of matte black sort of textured material there, a little bit of a shelf, and that's why there is a big protector here with some chrome on it between the hatch and that bottom bumper. And we have integrated exhaust ports. So that was all the rage, just a couple years ago to have, true exhaust, like flush mounted ports in your bumper. And as you noticed with the new one, it's kind of not the case anymore. So that's definitely something to point out. The wiper's the same on both, right at the bottom, sort of mounted in the middle. And then in the trunk itself, nothing really different as I mentioned. Maybe the new one has a little bit more space, but it's gonna be very close. Decent size to kind of get stuff in and out of. There is no basket to the left, I noticed. And also, I don't know if there's also no hooks for groceries or anything like that on the old model. But again, those are all very minuscule details that most people aren't probably gonna actually care about. Okay, so at the rear of the vehicle, we're gonna start with the 2024 NX350. So a few things to note here. The most obvious is the newer style of Lexus emblem, which is the LEXUS, perfectly spaced out and just looks like a modern, very classy way instead of the old emblem. Also, the taillights are different. So we have sort of this separate Lexus signature sort of design here, and then I call it the samurai sword above the Lexus emblem and above those two taillights. In terms of the actual shape of the rear, I would say the new one is a bit more rounded and again looks wider. And what I mean by that is like the panel here sort of wrapping around to that quarter panel more looks like a wide body kit, I guess you could say, or as close to that as you can get on sort of a family SUV. And also too, we have this fake but nice little vent decoration there as well. And then that same silver sort of rear spoiler diffuser as we saw in the front. You will notice, however, with the NX and with a lot of vehicles coming out is you no longer see the exhaust. I mean, if you look low enough, you'll be able to see it, like if you crawl under it, but there isn't really like a spot for them integrated into the bumper. And like I mentioned in my other videos, a big reason for that is future-proofing. In a world of EVs and hybrids and plug-ins, there's not gonna be a lot of exhaust showing. So in order to future-proof, to kind of blend into future traffic and future, you know, automotive design, Lexus has already started to hide those without telling anybody. By the way, they just started to do that and they didn't put that in a brochure or anything. It just started happening, which is pretty cool. Also, I noticed when the trunk is closed, sorry, the hatch is closed, there isn't much of a lip here anymore. There is this little kind of protector for the top of the bumper, but on the other vehicles, there was more of a lip there, and they've sort of flushed that out, which I think is great. The trunk opens smoother, quieter, quicker than previous models. And in terms of space-wise, both vehicles are gonna be the same. We have a little basket sort of thing to the left and a few spots to the right to hook, you know, groceries and stuff like that. But all in all, the trunk space hasn't changed much between the 2 years, for sure. Okay, so now sitting in the 2021 interior, I don't need these anymore, obviously. And I'll try not to ramble too much because when it comes to interiors, I always talk too much. So I'll try to just keep it basic. The biggest difference between the two is going to be the multimedia system. This one has the Lexus remote touch interface, so it is the little mouse pad in the center that I actually really like. Instead of, you know, just going with the touch screen, it is the mouse. And because that screen is a little bit further away, it's a little more integrated into the dashboard, I would say. And there are still lots of buttons here. So we have the drive mode sort of mounted right in the center, right beside the shifter. We have a CD player and a tiny little shelf above the CD player, which I never knew what it was for. Maybe it's for, I don't know, a pen or something like that. Above that, we have our heated and cooled seats and all the climate controls sort of in the center there with the Lexus clock right above it, which I always liked. And pretty much that's it for the center. We do have the little makeup mirror, or I would call it my hair mirror because I would check my hair with it, which I always thought was cool. And underneath that is sort of a little storage again for change and stuff like that. And then there's sort of just like a little wrist rest for being able to use the remote touch interface. The seats themselves, these are sport seats. They do hug you a lot in this NX, I find. I would say the seats are definitely a little bit smaller. They're a little bit tighter. Some people love that. For my body size, it's really great. It's kind of like being, you know, stationary exactly where I want to be and not having to, like, you know, settle into the seat at all. It's already telling me where I need to go. Steering wheel, we have some perforated leather around the sides, and, you know, the actual steering wheel controls are definitely older. So we have volume up, volume down, you know, track up, track down, and then a little bit of controls on the little TFT display here, which is color. There is, you know, a speed reading, a digital speed reading there, but it all does look a little bit old at this point. And then we have, you know, our cruise control radar, our lane departure alert, all that stuff kind of where your thumbs go as well. Other than that, we have, you know, a little bit of aluminum trim around the cabin. Everything does feel a little more compact, a little more like a car, I would say. And, you know, there is also some buttons to the left here for things like this one has the bird's eye view or to lock the differential, etc., etc. Pretty much that's all I wanted to go over on this one, and we'll go check out the newer one. Okay, so sitting in the 2024, there's a lot more to go on here. So first thing you're gonna notice is the massive screen. It's a lot closer to you. It's more like a tablet. It is that sort of glass like a smartphone, which is great. And it is just a quick, very, you know, modern system. In fact, we used to say that the old system, we were kind of behind the competition, and all we wanted to do was be up there with the competition, and now we're actually a little bit in front, which is really great to see. So I love that new system. I do miss having the option of the remote touch, because then I don't actually have to put fingerprints on the screen, but I find once you set it up, you're not really touching the screen a whole lot anyway. Just sort of like using your voice or the steering wheel controls, etc. So that's great. We have some piano black here in the center. The new shifter, which is right out of like a Lexus LC, for instance, and a whole lot less buttons going on here. I've always said that new modern luxury cars is more about simplicity than decorating the dash and a whole bunch of buttons. And they did a good job there. The drive mode switch is sort of like hidden in the trim here, so it's not, you know, super obvious. And there's a few more drive mode buttons here as well. We have a wireless charger, which works absolutely great. So just put your phone in there. And you can even stash your phone away if you wanted to, and there is a little bit of storage underneath as well. And we have the new USB-C as well as the previous USB. So there is options for both, which is great. The armrest opens from both sides. So we've seen that trickling down. Again, that started with the Lexus LS and then, went into the ES and the UX, and now pretty much the whole lineup has that, which is great. And then the overall fit and finish. I'm very happy to say that, I just like when automotive brands don't go backwards in terms of quality or try to cheapen things up. They go forward. So even the way the steering wheel feels, the perforation is grippier. It seems to have more substance to it. The details, even in the F-Sport logo and sort of even the spots that you don't touch, are all very, very nice. And this one is the F-Sport Series 2 package, so it's not even the fully loaded, and we already have a heads-up display. And because of the heads-up display, we have the new sort of smart touch, customizable steering wheel controls. And then even the cruise control is just one button now instead of the switch where you have to go up and down and then click radar, all that stuff. It's very simplistic and super, super easy. So again, we've condensed a lot of those buttons into the actual smart interface, and the gauge cluster itself is a night and day difference from that last model. So now we just have sort of everything right in the center with, fuel and temperature and stuff like that on the sides. It's all customizable. It's a very high def TFT display with lots of information that you can see there. And it feels way higher end than that previous one. However, if you like a true needle instead of a digital one, you would have to go with the old NX for sure. Surrounding that, we have just some piano black, nothing too crazy. I already mentioned the heads-up display. Not a ton of buttons to the left here. Some really nice new accents. So there's less chrome and silver on the interior of the new one and way more piano black and like grays. So this is kind of like an artsy looking gray trim here on the door panel. And then to get out is the new electronic door latch, which I love. The seats themselves do feel a little bit wider. I have had a lot of guests say that, especially for people who are bigger than me, the old seats felt too cramped, where these ones seem to sort of fit the build. And actually, as I'm sitting here, I realize the cabin itself feels bigger. I don't know if that's just the way they've designed the center and the dash, or if actually it is, but it feels bigger. It feels a lot less claustrophobic, which is really great. And for the first time in an NX, we have a panoramic sunroof. And you don't even have to go fully loaded to get it. Most of the middle packages get it. So this one's an F-Sport Series 2. Even the luxury package has it, and that's the middle on the other lineup. And it's really nice having that panoramic glass, especially for the rear passengers. And that's pretty much it. I could ramble on longer, but I'm not going to. Okay, so sitting in the back of the new 2024, not a whole lot has changed back here in terms of amenities. I think maybe the size just a little bit, but just to give you an overview, we have a few USB-Cs down at the bottom. We have a speaker sort of right here in the top of the door panel with that new trim. It is electronic door handles on the rear seats as well. So just because it's for passengers doesn't mean that they don't get that. Center armrest with some cup holders in it. And again, everything's kind of just trimmed in the piano black. The panoramic sunroof really is nice for the rear passengers. So it does create a little bit more light. It does seem to open up the cabin space a little bit. The NX isn't a huge vehicle, especially in the back seat. I mean, I fit, but it's not like it's known to be, a family hauler as much as like the RX would be. And that panoramic really opens up the rear seat. So if you're claustrophobic or anybody in your family doesn't like sitting in the back seat, the panoramic roof I think will help that for sure. Okay, so in terms of differences between the two powertrains, the new one has 275 horsepower versus the old 235. But it feels even faster than that because now we have an 8-speed transmission versus the old 6-speed. And even just with that, the new torque, the bigger engine, I find the new one, even though it looks bigger and feels a bit bigger, it also feels more agile, and the power delivery seems to be a little bit more early and also has a bit better fuel economy. So even though most of the ones that are projected to sell are going to be in the hybrid variant, I think the turbocharged 2.4 350 is still going to be a big seller, just like the 300 was when the previous generation was new. So just to recap, the main differences are going to be a little bit of the styling, definitely the multimedia and the technology on the new one. However, the previous one does still have a little bit of those creature comforts and, you know, a little bit more of that analog display and, you know, buttons and stuff like that, a little bit less tech savvy. Both are great choices, obviously, but let me know in the comments below what you like more, the new NX350 or the previous generation NX300. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Lexus related content, or let us know in the comments below if there's anything other comparison wise or any other video content you'd like to see in the future. Let's start with this beautiful blue NX behind me. So at the back of the NX350, I've always liked that for such a small SUV, it has really good height to load things in and out of. And we also have a few standard accessories that come with it as well. The first one that you'll see is this cargo net, and usually it'll come sort of already hooked on to the two anchors on either side of that main opening, and you're just going to unzip it and then hook the top part onto the hooks that are on either side. And once you do that, it'll sort of come out of its little cocoon that it's in. I didn't know what else to call it but a cocoon, and you'll see the little Lexus handle here to be able to open it and put things inside. I find something like this super important in an SUV because you don't want things sort of flopping around and rolling around in the back of your NX. So once it's in there, it does create a little bit of a barrier. You can put stuff in the pouch, and then to sort of break it down, you're just going to take that top part off, and you can even remove it from the bottom hooks as well. And you'll notice there's other hooks in the back here. So as I just get these ones off, there is hooks further into that cavity. And at first you might think that it's also for this. However, you'll notice there's nowhere to hook the top on. So that is more like a tie down anchor. And you can use the net when it's, especially when it's in its cocoon, let's call it. And you can use that to sort of anchor down anything that's in the way. But for right now, I'm gonna get that out of the way and sort of explore a little bit more back here. To the left of the cavity, there's also a little netted pouch. I don't know really what it's designed for. You can definitely put the medic kit or the user manuals that come in the back of any Lexus. You could tuck it away there, but I always think these have Velcro anyway. So I always think to just sort of stick these to parts of your trunk that you're not going to use. The user manual, maybe you won't need for the life of the vehicle, but you never want to be in a situation where you need a medic kit and you don't have it. So I would definitely recommend keeping the medic kit inside, and maybe we'll do a video on the medic kit at a later date. Let's dig into this a little bit more. You'll see this has a soft cargo cover. Now, cargo covers are super important so that no one can peek through your window and see what type of cargo you have and perhaps decide if they're going to break in or not. So I really like having it. It also helps, you know, from having things in direct sunlight and stuff like that. On the NX, it's what I call a soft one. So it kind of clips to the top here on either side, and I'm just going to unhook it, and it's going to just kind of flop down a little bit. We're going to lift it up, and once it's up, you'll see it kind of folds in half, and now you have this beautiful half the size cargo cover. But you'll see, I mean, you could just put it loosely in here, but you don't want to put stuff on top of it, maybe get it wrecked, stuff like that. So Lexus, geniusly enough, and I definitely didn't learn this just today, has a spot for it. So as you roll up the cargo carpet, you can lift up this little sort of trap door, and inside this trap door, there is a massive cavity that you can store a lot of different things in. I would say it makes the trunk another 20% bigger, perhaps. So that would be really good for loose things, and a lot of people probably don't even know it's there. But when you look at this cargo area, this little trapdoor, I noticed a little divot here off to one side, and then as I sort of duck down, I noticed another slit that looks kind of like it would fit this. And that's exactly what Lexus has done, is you can sort of just slide it in there, clip it into the little divot, and now it's fully out of the way, and you can put that cargo cover sort of under that fake floor and be super happy with the space you have. Now, with all that extra space, there are some really cool accessories that you can get for your NX, and my favorite one is the pet divider and the pet screen. So essentially you can get a pet screen that goes at the top of those seat rests and a pet divider that's kind of in the center. And it's really good if you have a dog like me. I have a golden doodle, and that would stop him from trying to climb into the front seat while driving. He'll kind of just have his own little kennel back here, which is super comfy, and perhaps I'll do a video maybe actually trying that out one day. Also back here, you have a few other little things like these little cargo hooks. So really great spot to be able to hook your groceries, hook your grocery bags, again, to just prevent that floppiness around. If you've never owned an SUV, the first thing you'll probably do when you put in groceries or any other type of cargo is you'll just place it down flat. And if it's in a bag, it's gonna fly over. It pretty much happens to me all the time, but you have that little hook that you can sort of hook it onto. The seats do fold down, but to do so, you can't do it from the cargo area. You have to do it from sort of the top of the back seat. It's not super hard to do. You just sort of reach in and you can fold it down. It's a 60-40 split, and it pretty much goes totally flat down. Now, you will notice that under the fake floor, there is no spare tire in that area, and I think that's why you have such a big space. And there's no battery back there either. In terms of electronics in the back of the NX, we do have two lights. So one light on either side of that cargo area sort of shining down. So if you do have anything back there, you'll be able to see it. and there's another hidden light on the hatch, sort of shining at this area. It's a super, super tiny light, but it definitely helps a little bit. Also, I do see a 12-volt sort of cigarette lighter, even though you probably can't say that anymore. 12-volt outlet off to the left, so you could probably plug in like a cooler or any other accessory like that. Maybe the pump to, for your paddleboard or something like that. I don't know, but you can plug it in back there, and that works pretty well. Today, I'm gonna be answering questions that you left in the comments section in regards to our nimblest SUV, the NX. The NX is becoming one of our best sellers, and it has been for a number of years now. So it's about time we answer some very frequent asked questions about it. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Make sure you like this video and subscribe, and give me some more questions in the comment section. So question number one is, are the seats more comfortable in the RX versus the NX? And I mean, there's probably a science behind it. However, I think it's a little bit subjective. I find the RX seats more comfortable, but that's strictly on the fact of they feel bigger to me, and the bolsters don't seem as tight together. However, I have a lot of people, both my size, bigger, smaller, that find the NX to be a lot more comfortable. So it's a little bit subjective, but my personal opinion is the RX is more comfortable, and just in general has a little bit more comfort in its vibe, I guess you could say. Hi Dustin, if I put premium gas in my NX hybrid, would I get better fuel economy? This question's been popping up a lot lately, so gas prices must be going up, but the answer is sort of, or maybe. So theoretically, if you put premium gas in your NX hybrid, of course, then you should be able to get some better fuel economy, because on the NX hybrid, when they advertise the required gas or recommended gas, they say premium is recommended. So you can use regular, however, the fuel economy ratings that they have on the website is actually using premium, meaning if you use premium, you should be able to get those ratings. It doesn't mean if you use regular, you won't, but the car does tune a little bit to itself. However, the NX gas or the NX 350 non-hybrid, you have to use premium. So don't put regular gas in that one. That's bad, don't do that. Hi Dustin, I'm looking at both RX and NX. Which one should I go with? Oh, this is so tough. This question was actually asked to me on Instagram the other day. If you ever find me on Instagram, feel free to DM me and ask me these types of questions. So this one, I always start with this. Did you drive both? If you drove both on a test drive, I'm gonna ask you, how did the interior of the NX feel? Did you feel claustrophobic, or did you feel really connected? How did the RX feel? Did it feel too spacious, or did it feel manageable enough that you could drive it every day? And then I start to ask, do you prefer a sporty handling ride, or something that's kind of like driving a big soft couch? And that's when I come up with the answer. RX is really great for someone who has that mid-sized sedan drive in their head. Something that's a little bit cushiony, very luxurious, has that extra space in the rear. For me, I like to have a couple buddies in the back seat when I'm driving around. That means the RX is gonna be more comfortable for them. It's more of a luxurious back seat. Not to say that the NX doesn't still have plenty of space back there. However, it is definitely tighter and more like a sports car, more like a sports coupe. So when I was talking to this person the other day, they said they actually prefer the sports coupe or the more manageable size. So then they go for the NX. But just remember, R is for radiant, and in my opinion, that mid-size luxury, and N is for nimble, and that's what the NX is. Hopefully that helps. Does the NX or RX have window shades in the back? Yes, the RX does. No, the NX doesn't right now, but maybe that's coming in the future. That's how we saw it with the panel roof as well. It didn't come in the NX right away. Does anyone ever complain or regret buying an NX because of being too small? I haven't really heard that. I've never had someone trade in an NX saying I should have bought an RX. I even had a guest in the comment section the other day say that for her family, and she has a son that's 6 feet tall and a husband, they can go on road trips in the NX and never complain about space. Yes, they can't bring their bikes with them inside the car, but they don't do that anyway. So even a 6 foot son in the back seat, and I've been in the back seat and I'm 6'1", doesn't really complain about that. Now, if you had 3 people in the back seat, maybe they would complain. But I haven't had anybody regret buying the NX. Usually they really differentiate between the two, and same with packages. I never really have someone regret buying an F Sport over a luxury or vice versa. Usually the salesperson does a good enough job showing those two off early in the process so that you can go one way or the other and not sacrifice any features. Okay, so does the NX have the feature where you can roll down the windows with a key fob. Okay, so in Canada, it does have that feature, but it's turned off. So what you have to do is at your first 1,600 kilometer maintenance, you just ask for the dealership to turn on that feature. So when you press and hold unlock, it'll roll down those windows for you. And that should be a free feature to turn on. However, if you do it later down the road, you might have to pay like 50 bucks or something like that. But you can turn it on. You can't roll them up though. You can just unroll them. Okay, here's a great question. What did you find to be the biggest difference between the last generation NX and the latest redesign? Ooh, this is good. Okay, so I've driven both. I've had both as demos. There's gonna be a couple things here. Okay, so number one is the engine and powertrain. I find the new NX 350 to be so much punchier and just a little bit more torque and horsepower in a manageable space too, in a manageable area. And what I mean by that is getting on the highway, even going in the city light to light, on that turbo engine, it's just bigger, it's more power, it's just punchier. So that's number one. Number two is gonna be the tech. The tech is a huge difference from the previous model. In fact, it's been so long since I've been in a previous model, but the last time I was like, oh, I forgot we used to have this little mouse pad here. And the NX always had a different mouse pad than any of the other cars. It was sort of like a trial and error thing. So the new technology in terms of the Lexus multimedia, but also things like Lexus Safety Sense has come a long way since then. So even if you're not a techie person and you're like, I'm just gonna use my Bluetooth or Spotify anyway, I promise you, you'll find yourself loving the new NX tech more and more as you get to use it. The first week, it's gonna be a little bit confusing. However, as you get more used to it, you're gonna find things like, the fact that the screen is bigger and clearer and crisper, or the radar cruise control is just a little bit more accurate, or things like proactive driving assist, where there's like a whole bubble around your car, and that can protect you from even fender benders and stuff like that. So I do think there's still gonna be purists out there that are gonna opt for the great deal on a pre-owned 2021 NX like I have in the lot right now. However, I'm seeing less and less of them for sale, and I'm seeing more people flock towards just going with a new NX for $50,000 or $60,000 because of if that safety tech kicks in one time and saves you from a fender bender, it'll pay for itself. And also getting you to your destination accurately with the new Lexus multimedia and having all of those tech features is also very useful and kind of an investment in itself. So that's my 2 cents there. If I had to pick a third thing, it's gonna be the door handles. I love the door handles. I talk about it all the time. Having that electronic door latch to get in and out is just luxury at its finest. And I do find the interior has a step up in materials too. People argue on that with me, but usually it's people who don't own the new NX. And the people that do say that it is a lot better inside. So that's that. What is the number one issue you see with people after they come back after picking up their new NX? So this one is super easy. The car itself, mechanically, I haven't seen any issues. I haven't seen any fit and finish issues in a very long time in this brand. And if there's one thing that people come back for, it's the tech. And it's not the tech not working usually. It's more or less on delivery day of your brand new Lexus, it's a big day. It's a climax of all of your research and saving up and picking a package and dealing with the salesperson in the dealership. It's the climax and the peak of that mountain. During that day, you're gonna be doing a lot of things like paperwork. You're gonna be sitting with the salesperson, setting up the Lexus app. You're gonna be in the car. You're just thinking, did I get all my stuff out of my last car? All of these things are happening. And because of that, even the most tech savvy people don't retain, or maybe the salesperson doesn't even go over all of the tech features that are in the car. And usually it's not the tech features failing anymore, where a couple years ago, perhaps it was Apple CarPlay not connecting and Android Auto not connecting all the time. Now those things are all ironed out, but it's the use of it. It's in getting into the rhythm of how to use it. And an example of that is, even just showing people how to get back into the radio when they're in the map. It's not like it used to be where you had both on a split screen anyway. So those little things is really all we see. Eventually, I think all dealerships are gonna have like a tech specialist, most of them do already, where the tech specialist is gonna be there 24/7, not really, but all the business hours to be able to help people with these types of questions, because they're not really defects, they're not manufacturing defects or anything like that. It's mainly just needs a little bit extra coaching, and it's also one of those things where these systems are designed so that you use them every day and you get more used to them and you can get more into the advanced settings. Like even in any of our new cars that have that big Lexus multimedia display, Lexus interface, there's so many customized layers that if the salesperson goes through all of them on delivery, half of them are going to be over your head or forgotten about just because of there's so much to remember. So I always recommend doing a second delivery after picking up your new car, and maybe even a third, or maybe watch some videos online to learn those features slowly as you go and figure them out instead of, don't panic. There is a way to navigate it and you'll find your rhythm, because there's multiple ways to use the systems. So just getting into your own rhythm is a big part of it. Okay, here's a good one. What is the most popular color on the NX F Sport, and what is the most elegant? Ooh, I like this. So elegant, in my opinion, and people are gonna say that I might be wrong, is black. There's nothing more elegant to me than a black car, especially one with black accents like the NX F Sport. The black on that car is a caviar, which, by the way, is one of the most elegant sounding foods. So think about that. However, that caviar has a lot of depth to the paint too. So not only does the paint itself look like a well-fitted tuxedo, when you get up close to it, especially on a sunny day, you're gonna see a little bit of character and flair and detail as well. And there's nothing that says elegance rather than a black car. It does take some effort to keep that car clean. So do ceramic coating. We do that at the dealership here. A lot of people do that out in the community. Ceramic coating is a great way to be able to keep that looking shiny. The most popular though, I would say it's a tie between atomic silver or white. And when I was at the Lexus factory, almost every second Lexus off the assembly line was white because it's just very popular. On that F Sport, it is the ultra white. So it's like, there's not much pearl to it. It's just very bright white. And at nighttime, looks amazing because the whole car, it's not glow in the dark, but it almost looks it because you can still see all the details of the body, even at nighttime. In the daytime, the ultra white can be a little bright and it can wash out some of those details, but you have black accents. So it's got that whole panda look where it's like a two-tone. The atomic silver is a blend of both. So the atomic silver, even on a sunny day, you're gonna have a lot of body lines and you can still see some nice curvature. And also it hides the dirt really, really well. So you don't get followed on the atomic silver, you don't get water spots. It's the same color as water spots. And the best test for this is next time you see an atomic silver Lexus, if it's dirty, you'll see on the windows how much dirt is on them, like on the tinted windows. And then you'll look at the body and be like, oh, is it just the windows that are dirty? No, the whole car is dirty. It just doesn't look like that in the atomic silver. So those are the two most popular. However, the most elegant is definitely black. And you can quote me on that. I'm gonna take you on a tour of the 2024 NX 350 in the S Sport Series 3 package, and make sure you stick around because I'm also going to do some driving impressions as well. But before we get into it, make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content. So getting right into the styling of the front end, as I mentioned, this is the F Sport Series 3. So we have that big black spindle grille that I'm very happy they did an outline. Instead of like the lighter chrome, it's all blacked out. So it's like a piano black finish, as well as a lot of layers to that F Sport Series grille. At the bottom, we have some silver. It's sort of just like a little lip that they've added to it. And on the other side, we have sort of that spindle grille continued. But if you look closely, there is a few other features integrated into this front end, like the tow hook. So that tow hook cover comes off. Under the fake floor in the back, there is the tow hook you screw in and you can tow the vehicle out of the ditch or wherever you ended up. We also have the headlight washers on either side. So when your headlights are on, if you do the mist feature, it'll actually spray these headlights. Now, unless you live in Canada or somewhere that salts the roads, you might think, why would you need that? It does really help in, when your car has salt all over the front end and your headlights are salted as well. So it helps that light come through once it's been rinsed. Also, we have some parking sensors sort of hidden on the black grille. They kind of blend in. And since it's the F Sport Series 3 package, we also have a camera underneath that Lexus emblem. So on the headlights of this NX, there is a lot of features. So we have a triple beam LED headlight that has the intelligent high beam assist, meaning instead of just turning them a high and low when they sense other cars and objects, it actually will shut off and reposition some of those headlights so that you have the maximum amount of light and just sort of blacking out what's gonna blind someone. We also have this beautiful daytime frosted daytime running light, as well as right above it, a signal / amber light that is almost the same width of it, so it really sort of sticks out, and when someone has their signal on, it grabs your attention towards the headlight and to the Lexus itself. So the side profile, we have some beautiful blacked out 20-inch rims. We have the F-Sport logo right here, and the only chrome, pretty much on the whole vehicle, which is right here on the bottom of the cap of the mirror. Everything else is pretty much blacked out. The chrome is almost like a smoked out chrome. The roof liner, or the roof rails are fully blacked out. And then even just towards the back of the vehicle, we have everything color matched, like the fender flares and the door handles, etc. So going to the back of this beautiful blue NX, we have this amazing taillight that goes from one side, breaks up, and then sort of goes across to the other. We have the LEXUS. The NX was one of the first to have that new emblem on the rear. A little bit of decoration at the bottom, a diffuser, and a little bit of gray. But let me show you the trunk and go over a lot more that's inside of that. So the first thing I noticed when I opened this one is this little tag that Lexus put there teaching you how to open the trunk using your foot. And no, I don't mean sticking your foot above your head and becoming an acrobat. I mean the kick sensor located underneath the bumper. And I'm telling you, this feature has gotten a lot better and more accurate over the years. The first generation of it was a little clunky. Now I find it works almost every time that I do it. So make sure you give it a second chance if you were disappointed the first time around. So the trick of the kick sensor is to have the vehicle locked until you approach it, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and then it'll open up. A lot of times people will try to swipe the foot or hold the foot. I always find it works best when you just put 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you'll hear that beep and it'll open up. A couple times if you hit unlock before approaching the car, or if you've already opened a door or someone else has, that kick sensor might not be looking for you, if that makes sense. Also, we have this cargo net that's sort of latched to both sides, and then you could just expand it upward and hook it to the top there. It's great for putting loose items in instead of having your Wonder Bread rolling around your trunk space. It's a lot easier to put it in there. We also have the summer floor mats. Right now I have some winter floor mats installed on the car. A lot of my guests keep these in the package, but it is nice that there is a little detail to it. And what I mean by that is, since this one is the F-Sport, it says F-Sport NX right on the floor mats. And also, since it has the red interior, the outside of those floor mats is red. So I think that's pretty cool. If you're gonna use that, some people do, some people don't. It's kind of cool that it matches everything. Also, we have a little net off to the left-hand side. Again, great for some loose items. And above that, we have a hook to hook your grocery bags, etc. onto it. So again, it's not flopping around in the back seat. And to the left of that hook, we have the outlet. So it's like a 12-volt outlet. Then we have the Meta Kit and the user manual, both Velcroed to the side. You can also Velcro those to the back of the seats, which, by the way, on the S4 Series 3 are power. So you can use 2 power switches located to the right of that trunk space to lower and raise those back seats. And it pretty much goes almost flat. It's not perfect, but it's almost perfect. So the cargo cover up top is a foldable soft style cover. And so many times I see when people trade in their cars that this is left in their garage or in their basement, because there was always a time where it was in the way and people didn't know what to do with it. But there is a way for you to hide it underneath the floor. Let me show you that. So all you're gonna do is move this netting off to the side, lift up the little cargo mat, and there's a little handle here, which you can see. In here, we have a huge sort of cavity that no one takes advantage of. It's probably about 1 foot deep, maybe 2 feet wide, and you can put a lot of stuff in here, especially loose things like the user manuals or some cleaning products or groceries even would fit in there quite nicely. But off to the right of it, you'll see there's a slit that's pretty much the exact size of the cargo cover, and you just slide that in there and it fits perfectly underneath the fake floor so that you don't have to leave it in your garage and forget that it's there. Okay, so to put the grocery hooks down, you just push in the bottom and sort of fold it out, and then when you're done with it, you can put it flat. However, I don't know why people don't just leave it down. I mean, it's not a safety hazard, so I just put it down because then when you need it, it's there and ready for you. So to fold down, you're just gonna press and hold one of the switches. You'll see the quick lever sort of release, and then it'll fold down the seat. Now, if anything is in the way, even in the slightest, you'll hear some beeps, you'll hear the seat stop. It's very sensitive to making sure it doesn't crush a human or a piece of luggage or whatever you have back there. Okay, so sitting in the back of the 24 NX, I'm 6'1". It's not too bad size-wise. Maybe the top of my hair is tickling because of the the ceiling is kind of touching it just slightly, but not a big deal. I'm actually pretty comfortable. I also have this armrest that I can put down in between me and the other passenger. It's not quite as big as an RX back here, but it's still totally fine. Also, because of this package, I have heated seats back here, which is nice. Just the 2 seats are heated. The controls are right here. There's 3 levels to them, which is nice. The person in the center doesn't get a heated seat, but maybe they're gonna be close enough to everybody that they'll stay warm anyway. Who knows? I did notice that there is little microphones above each passenger back here. And usually what that's for, or what it's for in like the TX and the RX anyway, is part of the noise canceling. So to keep this cabin really quiet, it's using that type of microphone to do so. I also noticed with the panel roof, it is tinted a little bit. So, and it's tinted like that UV yellow sort of protection glass, and it looks different even than like the windshield or the side. And that's probably just to cut down the UV production in places like California or Florida where it's like super hot and the sun is out. I'm just guessing, that's just my assumption. Also back here, we have a couple vents in the center and some hidden vents under the seats in front of me. I only noticed that because of it's cold here today and I can sort of feel them warming up my toes. Also, we have the E-latch back here with the Mark Levinson sort of logo and grille for the sound system as well. And it does come factory tinted for the back seats as well. A lot of times I forget to mention that. So before I get into the NX, I wanted to stop talking so you can just take a listen to what it sounds like outside right now, and then we'll do kind of a test of how silent it is inside. Okay, and now let's go inside and see. Okay, now inside, take a listen. Okay, so I have the car still running, the heat is off, and once I'm inside, you can't hear all the highway noise, the wind, the cars and people around that I could hear when I was outside. Okay, so sitting in the driver's seat of the NX now, let me show you around a little bit. I'll start focusing with the center here. So since this NX doesn't have the old Lexus trackpad, we have some more space here for some other things. 2 cup holders, a wireless charger that can be opened up, and then we have a little bit of storage inside with a little 12-volt outlet as well. There is this little shelf here on top that I don't know what it's for because it's really small and it's too slippery to put like coins in. So I'm not sure what you would use that for, but it's there. And we have a USB-C and a USB other USB beside it. Then to the left, I have the drive mode switch. I really like the position of it because you can sort of just touch it when you're driving and it's not out of the way, like you're not looking down, it's still kind of in your eyesight, which is nice. It does normal if you press the center. If you press the center again, it goes into custom mode, which you can sort of customize. To the left is Eco, to the right is Sport, and then when you're in Sport, if you go to the right again, it's Sport Plus. Now the difference between Sport and Sport Plus is that the Sport Plus just tightens up the suspension, where the Sport only does the sort of the throttle and things like that. We also have the new style gear lever. So how to use it is you simply just put it to the side and down to put it in drive, and then let go and it snaps back. And then reverse is to the side and up and snaps back, and then park is you just press this little P here. I point that out because I do forget to tell people this when they drive an NX for the first time, and then they're fine driving it and then they go to park it and they're like, how do I put it in park? So it is important to note. Surrounding that whole style is this piano black finish. I will say piano black in that area does have fingerprints. This is a brand new car. I'm probably one of the only people that have been in this car, and there is already fingerprints just from me being in here. So if you do have a little, like if you have that about you where you need to have it perfect, maybe just keep like a microfiber close by and you can wipe it down once in a while. But you also don't want to scratch it, so you got to be really careful when you're wiping it down. The rest of the finish is sort of this gray, which is a little more versatile. You can't see the dust, you can't see the fingerprints, etc. Then below the gear shift, we have a couple different buttons here. One of them is traction control off. You're really only going to use that if you're really stuck in snow and you want all the power to go to the wheels without any traction control or stability control sort of kicking in. Then we have a little drive mode switch that sort of just kind of puts it in a little off-roady type all-terrain mode. I haven't really played with that too much, but it does have sort of a car going off-road with a little tree beside it, so that kind of shows you that it's like going in the forest or something, I don't know. Then we have the electronic parking brakes. You can pull it up or down to activate and deactivate that. And you have a brake hold here, which I never really used the brake hold, but I have had some guests that specifically didn't buy a car that didn't have brake hold. So how that works is if you're in traffic and you press that, or if you're in a drive-through, whatever, you can give your braking leg a brake and just let go. And then when you hit gas, it'll deactivate. We also have the auto off feature. So what that means is, from the factory, if you're driving the NX gas and you go to a red light and like, let's say your climate control isn't cranked and a few other things, it'll maybe shut off the gas engine just to save that idling. Some people don't like it, so they have this button to be able to override it. I did notice you have to press it every time if you want to override it. So it doesn't just, once you press it, it doesn't just do it forever. You have to press it every time. I'll say I got used to it though. So when I feel the auto off feature kick in, if I notice my light is about to go green, I just move my leg a little bit, and that kicks on the gas engine, vice versa. Then we have downhill assist. So again, not a feature I've used very much because where I live in Ontario, it's pretty flat. But if you do live in a very hilly area and you want to save your brakes, you can put downhill assist on, and it sort of just keeps it in a gear that'll use the engine for some braking. That's all. Then we have the armrest here. It does open from both sides, which is really nice. And it's a decent size to have your elbow resting and still have a passenger being able to use it without fighting over it. So one of the only changes to the 2024 NX is actually the fact that this glove box is now the same color as the rest of the interior. It used to be just matching of the dashboard, but now it sort of ties in the rest of the interior color. In this case, it's red, so that is now red. Okay, so now I want to do a sound test on the Mark Levinson sound system. Now, a couple things to note about the sound system. One is it's always important to make sure you're using a strong audio file. So Spotify, make sure it's the full quality, or if you're using like lossless audio, things like that. That way you can really get the full immersion of the sound system. And I will say that even the factory regular sound system, the Lexus Premium Audio, is still really good. It's usually like a Pioneer-based system, and sometimes that one is better for different genres. Sometimes the Mark Levinson is better for different genres, so it really just depends. But let's get into it and do a bit of a test here with just some generic music. Okay, so I'm gonna start on the left and go towards the right. So pretty much with the Mark Levinson, it's just about how full it really sounds. It's not a ton of bass, it's not like overwhelming, it's just very clear, very full, very crisp. And I think for the majority of listeners, they'll appreciate that. So without further ado, let's go for a drive and see if the NX is as nimble as the name suggests. So the first thing I'm gonna do is put it in drive using the new shifter, let it snap back, and away we go. I just have it in normal mode right now, but I am going to put it in sport mode when I get to the road that I want to try out how windy it is. Also, I forgot to mention the steering wheel on the Sport NX has a lot of grip to it. It's a little bit more beefier to like actually hold, and then there's sort of like this perforated texture to it to make it a little bit more grippy. Also, it is really nicely stitched, and it has red stitching on it. And it feels hand stitched. I don't know for sure if it is. I know a lot of Lexuses do have hand stitching. I just don't know if the NX steering wheel is one of them. Also, I do have my CarPlay running right now with directions back to the dealership because I wanted to test something I read online about it not showing it in the heads-up display, and it in fact does show it in the heads-up display. So I can see turn-by-turn directions. Right now it's telling me I'm gonna be turning right on 7th Street North in 1.2 kilometers, and then I'm on the North Service Road. So the thing is, you have to turn this on. From the factory, the heads-up display just shows like a minimum amount of information, but if you go to the quick menu on the system, you can change it to full, and then you'll see things like turn-by-turn direction, fuel economy, anything you wanna see pretty much. But you do have to turn it on, so make sure you do because it's amazing. You don't have to really look at the screen much when you have it on. Okay, let's put it in Sport Plus. I'm coming up to where I want it to go, and we're just gonna throw it around some corners real quick. Sport Plus. Now the NX is on the platform, or when it first launched anyway, of the IS. So it wasn't to be on the SUV platform, it wanted to be on a car, like a sports car platform, to give it that nimble handle. Now it's more similar to the RAV4 platform, but on steroids, but with the Lexus driving signature is what Lexus has marketed as. We're gonna just continue on my little S-bend here. Full complete stop because that's the law. Ooh, and you'll hear right now the auto off kicked on. And when I want to go, I'm just gonna just lightly let go of that brake a little bit. It turns it back on so that when I want to go, I'm ready. And we'll just accelerate to this corner. It hugs the road. Not much body roll. I was able to accelerate very nicely through the corner. In fact, The resistance of the steering actually made that turbo spool a little bit harder, which I liked. Since I'm in sport mode, it's holding the gears a little bit. Yeah, really nice handling for the NX. In fact, I could have been on a tighter S-bend and it would be fine. You wouldn't feel it wobbling around at all. Very, very tight car, or SUV, because of that. Also, we have things in this one like the digital rear view mirror, so I can see behind me even if I had things like cargo, etc. We have the customizable heads-up display, so I can change what the buttons do on the steering wheel to be able to change sort of how I interact with the heads-up display and with the display down here. I did do a full video on that, so you have to watch the rest of the channel for that. There is a way to really get the most out of that feature. Also, I don't find there to be much blind spots in the NX. I find even where my head sits, I'm not right at the B pillar, so I have a full view when I look to the left. I don't know if everybody feels the same. Again, I'm a little bit taller, so maybe that helps, I don't know. And we're gonna go down a bumpier road. I'm gonna put it back in normal, or custom, I'll do normal. And it's kind of like a bumpier country road, because sometimes you don't want it to be tight handling. So still really good. Really solid. I've heard that even compared to the RAV4, it's just a lot quieter in here on these bumpy roads, as well as the suspension is more superior. There's more insulation, probably more weight to it. Yeah, super, super quiet. Even with these big wheels on the Sport, it doesn't feel like they're big wheels, if that makes sense. So like, I don't feel every pothole. I don't feel every sort of nook and cranny. It's really smooth, actually. So accelerating onto the highway now, I got my foot down. Really good pickup. And actually, at the lower RPM, there is a nice sound to it too. I really like it. It's like a little bit throaty. A couple cool features. So the adaptive radar cruise control is amazing on this car. It also slows down for curves and stuff like that. What I love is the lane change assist. So if you just hold a half click on that signal, it'll automatically change lanes for you, just depending if there's someone in your blind spot or not or whatever. It does take a couple seconds to kick in, but when it does, it's amazing. It's not in all the packages, but I do like it. I also really think that for being a small SUV, there is really good control over the road noise and wind noise and stuff like that. If you close the sunroof shade, you will get a little bit quieter. So I always recommend that if that's something you care about. But otherwise, it's nice to be up a little bit high and still, if I wanted to, if I needed to weave through traffic a little bit or whatever, it's nimble enough, see what I did there, that the car can do so with ease. It's just like driving like a sedan or a sportier, you know, IS or something like that. So there you have it, a general overview of the 2024 Lexus NX350 in the F Sport Series 3 package, a little bit of driving impressions, a little bit of finer details, and in the beautiful ultrasonic blue. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you like this video, please make sure you hit like and subscribe, and tell me of any videos you think that I should do similar to this, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.